Hey guys, it's Dave, and I'm a sound designer. And it's been a really long time, but I'm back. Things probably look different. They might sound different. I've been working on my setup a lot. Life has happened. But I started streaming on Twitch. If you want to check it out, twitch.tv/noise proxy. I play a lot of Fortnite, but I'm also going to be doing some sound design and music production and hopefully making some music soon because it's been a while. And I wanted to give back to YouTube again. This is how I learned to do my thing. I do sound design for a living, and it's all thanks to the Mr. Bills and the Brent Sadowicks and the Virtual Riots that made YouTube content and gave me, the information that I needed to create my own workflow. So hopefully if I can do anything to help anyone learn something, that'd be great. And then if you have any questions, come to Twitch and hit me up in the chat and let me know. What anything I can show you. We can make it like a live situation. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take some ambient sound and create a snare drum. But this process doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same thing. You might not necessarily want to make a snare drum out of some ambient noise, but you might want to make some ambient noise out of a snare drum. And the process is quite similar in a lot of ways. And it's a lot of experimentation. Hopefully I can teach you, even one little tidbit of something that you can add to your workflow. So, let's find some ambient sound. Ambient. I was listening to something earlier. There was this loop in here somewhere. Okay, there it is. Okay, here's the loop. So it is not a snare drum or a drum of any kind. So here's how I would do it. Let's say this. There are a couple ways of doing it. Manipulate the audio, print, resample, process, flip, whatever. Like there are a million ways you can do it that way, which is like very raw manual sound design. Or you could take it and you could just drop it into a simpler and then manipulate the simpler, like the ADSR, the attack decay, sustain release, and add effects that way into a chain. And then, you have something that you can kind of reverse the effects. With this manual sound design technique, you're kind of like printing it to stone more or less, and there's not really any going back, but it is a little bit more of an easy way to see and feel it, if that makes sense. This is just the way I do things. Maybe it's not your way. That's fine. So anyways, while I've been talking, I've been shortening this up. So basically I'm trying to make this as short as possible to get that, like a drum needs to be transient short decay, like extremely short. So here's what it sounds like. So not short enough. So we're just going to keep making it shorter. That's fine. Let's do it that. All right. And then I'm just going to consolidate this, Control J. All right. Now, what can you see from this? So we want strong transient, short decay. So right now, transient doesn't look super strong. There are a lot of ways you can do this. You can just replace it. You can put a transient shaper on it, which Ableton does not have, stock. But I can show you how to sort of do that without a transient shaper. Make your own transient shaper. But again, you could just literally cut this out or place something on top of it or layer it. So I'll try to also show you that. Anyways, let's find a compressor. Let's first, actually, can't skip this. Let's put an EQ on it. I want to get rid of the low end. We're just going to take it to like 100 or something. Get rid of the stuff that we don't want on the low end. Okay, just gonna loop this. And then I'm going to, okay, first off, mixing and sound design, two different things. Mixing has rules, or they will tell you it has rules. Sound design does not. So don't come at me when I start doing things that you're like, whoa, you're not supposed to do that. So first off, I'm just going to start boosting and cutting frequencies based on things that I want to hear or don't want to hear. So I want to add a fundamental pitch to this because right now it's very high and there's not a lot of depth to it. So I want like a nice fat snare. So I'm going to boost this guy down here and find a pitch that I like. Actually, I like that one a lot. It creates this like 9 chord. Because that's the fundamental. I didn't want that. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this. So when I duplicated it, it took that resonance that I created and it just like doubled it, right? So I just brought it down a little bit so it wasn't so nasty. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to freeze and flatten this. So the reason I do this is because I like to see the waveform like as I'm going. So let's... Okay, so we still got this transient issue, right? So we're going to add the compressor. I'm going to use a glue compressor. So down here we've got attack, release, and ratio. So a compressor compresses the signal. The attack is how long it takes to compress. The release is how long it takes to release the compression. Okay, so I want a long attack because I want the transient to come through. And then the release needs to be long as well in order for the compression to stay compressed. Because if you have a short release, it's basically just going to be boosting or compressing everything. So especially with the long attack, it's going to skip the transient and then skip everything else because the release is so short. So I'm going to start with a short release so you can hear what happens. Bring the threshold down. Makeup up. And then let's bring the release up. Cool. So next, what I want to do is I want to add the snare sound. All right. Now that we have like the fundamental of the drum heads itself, now we need the guts of the snare. So I'm gonna search for envelope follower. This is I think it's a Max for Live patch, and I'm gonna drag it on this, and then let's take a look at it. So basically, it's just following the signal. There's gain, rise, fall, delay. So rise is how long it takes to, it's like an attack decay kind of thing. All right. So because I want the top head to sound and then the snares to come after it, because that's what naturally happens, I'm going to increase the rise and increase the decay, the fall, so that the snares have a little bit of resonance after the heads. But there's nothing happening. So what I need to do is find some white noise. That's fine. Let's reverse that so it goes down. Okay. So this is what it sounds like right now. Okay, until I click this map, and then I'm going to map it to the volume of this white noise. And now watch what happens. And then turn the gain up. It's too high for me, so I'm just going to pitch it down. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo these tracks together. You can group them, whatever. And I always remember to do this because if you have other tracks that you're working on, you got to make sure that you're only resampling the things that you want to resample. And then I'm going to add an audio track, Control T, resample, hit C or enable arm the track. And then we just record. And now we have a new sample. That's a snare drum. Cool. Now there is like this, the original frequency is annoying me a little bit. So I'm going to just add an EQ. That one. So I'm going to turn all these off. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to cut it. Okay, that's fine. Now let's just go ahead and freeze and flatten this too. Okay. All right, now let's add a saturator. So I just want to give it some body and some color. I'm going to give it like 6 dB boost and then bring it down 6. Okay, and then let's put some OTT on it and see how this really brings the snare to life. And you can use this time here literally for how long the snare is. Okay, I like that. And then we're going to let's add some reverb, but not the kind of reverb that you think of. It's not going to be long. We're actually going to turn the decay all the way down. This is a little trick I learned from Virtual Riot. Turn the decay all the way down. Density up. Pre-delay down. And then this is what it sounds like without it. So it wasn't a great example, but... And then you could just double these things. You could take the OTT and the saturator and then just put it after the reverb. Cool. Freeze and flatten. And then I'm going to consolidate this. Control J. And then I'm going to normalize it. Okay, so now you have a pretty fat snare drum. All right, and then you can keep messing with it. Like you can go back and check the EQs, see how it's looking. You know, just do some shaping with it or whatever. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I would make a snare drum if I were to take something that is not a snare drum and make it one. But here, check this out. If you just did, like, took a simpler and dragged it in here, and then let's freeze and flatten this again. And then we just dragged this sample into the simpler. Now we have a pitched snare drum. So, I don't know. Maybe that helped you. Maybe you learned something. It's good practice for me. So if you hate the video, I'm sorry. But, you know, I would love for you to subscribe and come follow me on Twitch. And maybe I'll see you there later.